am just going to open with this point that, like other wars, the war in Gaza has not been contained. Um, and it's really raising tensions across the region. And this includes, of course, violence in the West Bank, Lebanon, and Syria, and as well as in shipping at the Red Sea. This is a war that is being waged on an already marginalized population, and one that's highly dependent on international aid even before the war. So it is a particularly destabilizing war, and that has to be considered with the context of nuclear weapons, because we have, of course, nuclear weapons in the region, both with Israel and the United States, um, Pakistan and India not very far away. It's a very dangerous situation. So the threat of nuclear weapons is an old threat, and every president between Truman, who dropped the bomb, and Clinton have threatened to use nuclear weapons. Um, Daniel Ellsberg, in his last book before he died, uh, pointed out that there have been over 25 threats by the U.S. alone, and this does not include threats by China, for example, to the U.S., by the Soviet Union, um, and more recently by President Putin, um, and the Israeli minister Imahe Ilahu, who threatened to use nuclear weapons in Gaza. I want to make this point very clear. Thankfully, for this subject, the president of France has made it very clear that there is no wall between nuclear weapons and nuclear power. The industry would like us to believe there is this wall, but the president of France has made it quite clear, without civilian nuclear energy, there is no military use of this technology. And without military use, there is no civilian energy. And what he's saying here is that the French nuclear industry, which is one of the leading nuclear industries in the world, could not continue to expand and modernize its nuclear weapons arsenal um, without the French nuclear industry. And this is, of course, true of all the weapon states. These are the operating reactors in the region. There are multiple nuclear programs, including the enrichment program um, in both Iran and in Israel. Israel has built its weapons systems, estimated to be um, as many as 3 to 800 weapons. Um, they have also produced and separated plutonium, which is in very, very challenging engineering feat. The Iranian nuclear program has over 4,000 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. It is capable of weapons fabrication. It has weapons designs. Um, and there are at least 3 new programs in the region in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey. This is a map showing where the various reactors are. Several of these are only in the planning stage. Uh, the ones with the dotted lines are under construction. The Saudi reactor uh, is not quite operational. It is built. It's a so-called research reactor, and it's not quite operational. Israel has bombed two reactors in the region, one in 1981 in Iraq and one in 2007 in Syria. Both of these reactors were on the verge of being fueled. They were fortunately not fueled at the time. Saudi Arabia um, is moving towards operating its research reactor. This reactor is capable of producing plutonium. Uh, Ironically, the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, considers this step that Saudi Arabia took as a step towards a nuclear-free Middle East. And we will get into this at the end, that this is the prescription part of my um, diagnosis and treatment plan. But there is a conflict, I would say, absolutely, between the IAEA and its mandate to expand nuclear energy and the weapons programs in the Middle East. So just briefly, a little history here on these weapons programs. Many of them emerged from Eisenhower's Weapons for Peace program. In 1953, he announced at the United Nations that, yeah, sorry, we bombed these two cities, but we're now going to make good on it, and we're going to bring nuclear uh, energy too cheap to meter, um, to the rest of the world. And in fact, um, this program contributed to the French, Israeli, Iranian, South African, Pakistani, and Indian nuclear programs. And I'm sorry to say that as a Canadian, um, it's also quite embarrassing because our CANDU reactor, which we gave to India in this magnanimous attitude, is the reason they were able to have a nuclear program. So, unfortunately, the facilities are targeted, and as I noted, those reactors that were bombed by Israel. Um, but the explosion of a nuclear plant, as we've all been learning about over the course of the war in the Ukraine, would be an absolute disaster. This was mapped out by the U.S. Defense Department through uh, the U.S. Robust Nuclear Earth Penetrator Bomb analysis of what would happen if the Iranian nuclear facility was bombed. And while a lot of these facilities are in relatively unpopulated areas, the devastation would be spread for thousands of square kilometers. And in this case, um, many people would die from acute radiation poisoning and the subsequent radiation effects. The Atoms for Peace program has distributed more than 25 tons of uh, weapons grade material or near weapons grade material. Um, the USSR gifted an additional 11 tons at least. And this leads to estimates between 12,500 and 225,000 nuclear weapon equivalents being awash in the world. And um, so this is not only a threat because of expanding the nuclear states, but of course also a threat um, from non-state actors. And the notorious Khan network um, supplied nuclear materials and the mechanism to extract highly enriched uranium to many countries around the world. Um, so I'm going to close up here. I didn't want to take much time uh, with just a quick run through of the humanitarian uh, aspects of nuclear warfare. And this is well known to the IPPNW folks here. But there is, of course, the blast effect that shreds everything, flattens hundreds, at least tens of square kilometers. The incredible heat, which incinerates every living thing. Massive firestorms built by the flammable materials, creating toxic clouds that travel for hundreds of miles. And of course, then the deadly radiation that can cover tens of thousands of miles, square miles. Uh, um, Two quick bombing runs, one on Gaza City, estimated 273,000 dead and over 300,000 casualties. Or Tel Aviv, 233,000 dead and 384,000 casualties. We know as physicians there is no meaningful medical response to nuclear exchange, and prevention is the only cure for medical war. Uh, we cannot really imagine the conditions in Gaza being any worse, but of course, they could be worse, and they could also inflame the entire world. What our organization has shown, along with others, uh, and most recently published an excellent review in Nature Food, shows that if even a limited nuclear exchange were to occur, say between Pakistan and India, uh, that the ensuing nuclear winter would uh, lead to the death of over 2.5 billion people by famine. So these are the consequences that we have to consider um, when conflicts like this um, emerge and continue to grow. So just some hopeful notes. Besides Israel, India, and Pakistan, there are many nations that have signed on in the region to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. The treaty uh, to prohibit nuclear weapons is an excellent tool, um, and one that has been ratified by two states in the region. Many other states are signatories, and there is a lot of opportunity here uh, to consider bringing together states that would not necessarily signed, but perhaps in a time of conflict like this, could use a co-signing as a way of stabilizing a very unstable situation and gaining credibility on the nuclear stage, um, on the international stage. Imagine if Saudi Arabia and Israel came together to say, we are going to sign the treaty to prohibit nuclear weapons at the same time. I just want to note that there is another Middle East treaty organization for all weapons of mass destruction, and that this organization, which counts itself as 24 nations, um, has had a lot of success. So you can see the numbers down there at the bottom. Um, the TPNW, not so much. But the point is that there is an appetite in the region for reducing tensions, and that this is something that should be promoted. And I hope that our organizations will do this. At the present, the UN has these considerations for a nuclear-free zone in the Middle East, and the fifth session will be at the end of 2024. And we certainly can support such an effort to reduce nuclear tensions in the region. And I'll stop there. Thank you.